You're listening to Mechanic.com.au podcast, Australia's #1 podcast for automotive service and repair professionals. This week's podcast is proudly brought to you by Monroe, who provides the industry first 5-year warranty and unparalleled support to help grow your business. I'm your host, Jason O, and today we're joined by Eduard Julyan, who is the State Sales Manager for Victoria and New Zealand. Welcome on board, Eduard.
Oh, thank you. Great to be chatting to you today.
Certainly is, mate. Now let's talk about the State Sales Manager. You're covering a bit of region there. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you get up to.
Pretty much looking mainly after Victoria, Tasmania and New Zealand. So I look after all the key accounts in Australia for the passenger side of our business.
Yep.
So get involved with our key resellers and also stay in contact with our branches and the branch network, where we can stay in contact with our customers and take their feedback on board and make any changes or adjustments if we need to make sure we're always connected with the market and the installers of what they expect from us or where they have challenges, that we can provide solutions.
You have a beautiful South African accent, a lovely South African. We won't talk cricket today, but
No.
what's brought you to the industry? What's your backstory?
So I've worked in the automotive industry for about 15, 18 years now. Love the automotive industry. I'm pretty passionate about four-wheel driving, camping, outdoors.
Yeah.
And this role suits me pretty well. One of our larger customers is also involved in the outdoor space. So definitely a good fit for me. And also be a car nut.
Yeah.
Always love to Formula One and motorbikes, anything that's got an engine pretty much.
Yeah. Well, you're in a country, if you are off-roading and four-wheel driving, where the animals won't actually try and eat you. So it's probably not a bad place to enjoy your hobby, mate.
Definitely a good start. Yeah, the koalas and the kangaroos, not as fast as the lions and the cheetahs.
Well, listen, to everybody who is listening to the show, wherever you may be, today's topic is going to be growing your business with Monroe. Let's get straight into it. Eduard, what's the average number of shocks being replaced by most of the workshops on a monthly basis?
Well, based on a recent survey that we've done and my day-to-day experience visiting a lot of these installer groups or workshops, the average is sometimes 0 to 2 pairs per month that the average workshop is installing. So it's not a lot. Where we see a little bit of an increase in that number is where workshops are focusing a little bit more on shock replacement, where the number can go up a little bit higher to 4 to 6 units as an average per month in your average workshop.
Okay. Is that directly related to locations around Australia, regional versus the more metropolitan outlets?
Yeah, not specifically. It's more to do with maybe, in a way, I can agree with you that the regionals has probably got a little bit more time on their hands, so they look a bit more thoroughly through the car and report on those conditions. And the regional cars will probably add a little bit of off-road to them on dirt roads and stuff. So I would say the normal standard metro car will probably be traveling on good maintained roads in Australia, so you don't see as high a replacement rate, but at the same time it's a bit of a combination of the type of roads versus the focus as a business, where a lot of businesses only focus on servicing the car and not specifically looking for wearing parts like bushes and shocks outside of the brake pads and the critical other components.
Okay. So let's talk about a month-on-month increase potentially on bringing up the shock replacement numbers.
Yeah, so what we do is a normal workshop will only do between 2 and 4, like we discussed, on a monthly basis. So if you equate that to the overall opportunity in a month, that will equate to only $6,800 of profit that you can make on doing shocks.
Okay.
Now, if you had to increase your opportunity to the recommended industry standard, which is 8 out of 100 cars to get shocks, that will equate to $34,000 profit in a year that you can earn by just increasing, and that's only 2 car sets per month that you'll have to do.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic.
So that's definitely an achievable goal, I think, for most of your standard average workshops, and that will increase the profitability and also provide safer cars on the road.
That is a very minor change for a very major profit opportunity. If you're being more diligent on that shock absorber assessment. Why are shock absorbers needing to be replaced? What are the main issues that you're getting fed back to you?
Well, like any moving part, shock absorbers is part of those moving components that's part of any car, like the inside components of an engine.
Yes.
So shocks is no differently. Because there's oil inside a shock absorber, it pretty much wears down over time as it moves up and down.
Yeah. Okay.
So shock absorbers are also a safety critical component, and people's lives can depend on it. So the safety triangle, what we call it, is brakes, tires, and suspension. They all work together.
Right. Okay.
So if you had to take one of those components out and it's not at its full capacity and working, it's not going to deliver you the greatest result in terms of stopping distance
Yeah. Okay.
from when you would have if all three of those components were at the best possible condition.
The serviceability of a vehicle, can really be governed by those 3 points. The minute you turn your engine on, you're obviously adding into the mechanical movement of the vehicle, but they are so critical for the safety aspects of the car and even just the reliability side of things, aren't they?
Absolutely. It's like all modern cars, people rely on the electronics to take care of that braking distance and notifying them when to brake. But in the modern cars, if fitted with ABS and ESC, it actually prolongs the braking distance when you got worn shocks because the tire can't be kept to the ground in full contact. So that
Yes.
actually prolongs the braking distance. And a simple scenario which we use is at the same speed, same vehicle, same tires. If your worn shocks is in the one car and you have the same vehicle on the other side, the braking distance is about 2 meters further with worn shocks than with good functional shocks.
Yeah, right.
So, in most safety aspects or emergency conditions, that 2 meters can be a difference of
Oh,
a lot of.
stopping before the wall or hitting the wall?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot of differences here in that 2 meter
There is.
braking distance. So, yeah, it's the viscosity of the oil changes basically,
Okay.
and that makes the dampening performance less as the quality changes of the oil over time to time.
Well, let's talk about the methods that can be used for checking to see if shocks do need replacing. There's a wide variety of different methods, but what are some of the preferred ones that you guys like to see used?
Well, there's lots of different methods, as you mentioned, Jason, and the good old method was predominantly the bounce test.
Yep.
With the newer modern cars, you don't really want to push down on a more expensive car. You might be damaging it. So the main reasons we like people to see use is the typical drive test by taking the car for a drive around, listen for any noises or any knocking sounds that coming from the car while you're driving or going over speed bumps. The other method is the visual inspection of leaking shocks and also picking up on uneven tire wear, which is called scalloping. Then one of the main things that people normally miss is the worn shocks that on average, if I can throw some numbers at you,
Yep.
is the average shock absorber operates between 5,000 and 8,000 times per kilometer. Now, in
Wow.
the life cycle of a shock, which we recommend being changed at 80,000 kilometer mark, that's 400 to 600 million cycles
That's
in
ridiculous,
that
isn't it?
80,000. So people sometimes take it for granted
Yeah,
how
yeah.
many times a shock absorber works, but it's pretty much constantly trying to provide you the smoothest possible ride in the car.
That hard and
So
fast data.
it's a wearing part,
That
yes.
that that data is almost quite shocking when you think about it. And yeah, we do take the shock absorbers almost like a dumb part. We sort of go, it's either working or it's not, and we don't realise how
Absolutely.
much it gets punished. Can I just ask you a quick side question to this?
Sure.
Do shock absorbers have a shelf life?
No, they don't.
They don't have a shelf life, so it's only when
Because
they.
the product hasn't moved and the oil hasn't specifically functioned in a specific way,
Yep.
they don't specifically change, but they can deteriorate over years if the
Yes.
car is probably not used over a 10, 15, 20-year period. Definitely things can deteriorate, but if you're saying from new, sitting on the shelf,
Yeah.
it will be good for a few years before it's first fitted.
Yeah. Rightio. Okay. So now let's talk about what equipment can be used to diagnose worn shocks effectively. I mean, we talked about the manual sort of handling. Do we have any equipment we can use to diagnose?
Yeah, great question. A lot of the people take cars to different mechanics and they might get different opinions about the condition of their shocks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Monroe has investigated over the last few months to find the effective way of testing shocks that can help the installers to provide a effective result while testing the shocks, which we call the Monroe electronic shock tester.
Ah, okay.
So what this unit pretty much do is you put it on the side of the car, you will drive over speed bumps, and it pretty much moving the dampening ratio of the car, and it puts the movements into a simple category, into a hard, normal, soft, or poor condition, and that provides you a simple version with a printout that you can provide a customer to say whether their shocks is due for replacement, getting close to it, or really, really knackered.
And that I think is a technical term, actually. Might be a South African technical term, but we accept it here as well. That sort of diagnosis really is the stuff of the future, to say you can independently assess a vehicle without almost pulling it apart. That's brilliant.
Absolutely. And shocks is also a labor-intensive job. I mean, not everybody can replace shocks. You need to have a specialist mechanic taking that apart for you. It is a bit of a labor-intensive job. So we're just making that prognosis or diagnosis a bit easier by using that electronic shock tester, which can provide you a printout with an independent person, similar to the battery tester, that can provide you an indication of where your condition of your shocks on your vehicle is at.
Well, here in Adelaide, we drive towards the city from the southern side of things, and we have a massive big building that has Monroe written on the side of it, as you would be aware of.
Yep.
But now's the hard sell. Why choose Monroe? Why would workshops out there choose to endorse and stock your products?
Monroe is by far off, for the longest part of it, being the leaders in making shocks. We're also a global OE supplier, and we are Europe's number one in riding performance and coverage. So with our OE pedigree, we definitely provide the peace of mind to people that the product is made up to the highest standards that's available out there, and then the product rolls over into the aftermarket with the Monroe branding on it, which give you peace of mind when you fit it. Most mechanics build their business on the integrity of providing a safe vehicle to their customers, and by fitting Monroe, you definitely guarantee that you're fitting the highest quality product out there with no risk to a customer of failing.
Well, it's a very well-known brand in Australia. It's very well respected. Where can we go and buy the products?
Monroe is predominantly selling the products in Australia through the Repco stores, and then also available some of our AAD, Fulcrum, and Supercheap. And in New Zealand, we also provide the product through Autoline, B&T, and Repco.
Outstanding. Well, Eduard, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Have you enjoyed it? You've been a wealth of knowledge.
Well, I was glad to have a chat to you, and it's definitely great to be part of this, and really enjoyed it.
Oh, excellent. Well, our listeners, if they have any follow-up questions about anything we've discussed today, they can go ahead and reach out to Monroe via the Mechanic.com.au community. And now, if you're not already a member of Mechanic.com.au, join the thousands of other mechanics around Australia who are earning more, learning more, and networking more at Mechanic.com.au, the online home of Australia's mechanics, by creating a free account today. Thanks for tuning in to the Mechanic.com.au podcast, Australia's number one podcast for automotive service and repair professionals. Now, if you want to unlock a whole host of trade-only resources, including our private community, competitions, educational content, job opportunities, training, troubleshooting, and much, much more, go and create a free account now at Mechanic.com.au. Thanks for listening. Keep the rattle guns rattling wherever you are, and we look forward to seeing you with our next podcast coming soon.